Welcome back to the final Read With Me recap of Real by Kennedy Ryan, which is book number 1 in the Hollywood Renaissance series. In my previous recap videos, I went through chapters 1 through 59, and now we are going to go through chapter 60 through the epilogue. So, in my previous recap, I went over the fact that we have come to the realization and awareness that Neva's skin and hair condition is gravely serious now. She and Canon's relationship is now being put to the test in the sense of how strong is your bond? How deep is your love? And let me tell you, our boy Canon is like, love can't get any deeper. And you know what? I love that for our girl Neevah. Ain't no struggle love up in here. That is one of the things that I can genuinely say that I love about Kennedy Ryan's books. But this book in particular, I think I said it before in my previous review, but if I haven't, let me say it again. You look up Canon halt in the dictionary, and the definition is real big stepper, semicolon, if he wanted to, he will. He's a good man, Savannah. A good man. And he really is. So let's get into the recap without getting into specifics. If you were with me in my previous recap, then you are aware that I had some really strong feelings about Neva's sister, Terry. Gutter snipe. Gutter snipe. And what I will say about that is that family relationships play a huge role in the book. Betrayal is somewhat woven into that. And what I will say, broken relationships and redeemed relationships. If I look at a couple of the other characters, I can definitely make a connection between things happening to us that may seem detrimental and those things actually working out to give us the best outcome possible. I am thinking of 3 big moments off the top of my head. So I had really strong feelings towards Neva's sister, Terry. And by the time that we get to this point in the narrative, my feelings towards Terry and another individual involved with Terry evolve. I come to having a place of grace towards her, and I really do feel like she ends up getting a redemption arc, which I find to be beautiful because her redemption arc is tied into Neva's healing. And one of the things that the book does showcase for us is the act of forgiveness, right? In the act of seeking forgiveness, there were 3 moments in the book where people have to have a serious conversation with people that they wounded, and to have a moment where they own it and they apologize for it. And there were some relationships that are redeemed because of them, and then there's another relationship that's just reconciled, right? And sometimes that's just what forgiveness is. Like, forgiveness isn't always that we're going to heal from this and we're going to be together. Sometimes it's we've made peace with the situation and we're going our separate ways. Forgiveness is a theme of the book. And I really do appreciate the different approaches to it and how people are able to pick themselves up and move forward. I really like the way that, the narrative kind of plays with our characters' ideals and thinking around success in their art and how it impacts their life. Canon's perspective around success, right? Success for him is creating really good art. He doesn't care about, the reviews and what the people think and all this other stuff. He's also knows that he's really good at what he does, and chances are people are going to be vibing with it because he's great at what he does. But when he's creating his art, he's not creating it with the thought of people liking it in mind. He's creating it for the art and the passion of it himself, because that is the success for him. The success is creating really great art. What we see in Neevah is her version of success is being able to deliver an amazing performance, to be able to embody a character and to bring it to life and to move the people who see her work, right, in a way, because that's something that's important to her. People coming to experience the art and her wanting to have an amazing performance for them. Now we get our close up of our two main people, Neevah and Canon. And thank you, Kennedy Ryan. Girl, you hit that happily ever after out of the park. I do not think that we could have wrapped up their story even better. When I tell you they had a beautiful meet cute and a beautiful happily ever after, oh my God, what an amazing book ending. What I will say in terms of final thoughts, my rating for this one would be a 4 out of 5. I definitely highly recommend the book. I cannot get enough of Kennedy Ryan's writing style. The way that she uses dialogue is one of the things that I came to really love about her, because she uses it to enhance the character, but she doesn't use it as exposition to explain a lot. It's dropped in areas that is necessary, and then she takes us into the inner monologue of the characters to really paint the scene and get you into what the story is about, to really flush it out. I think that that was very strong. I like the way that she navigated between having a story within the story and being able to overlap the narratives in ways that they kind of feed off of each other, which is a very difficult thing to do in a lot of work. Sometimes they can get convoluted and it feels like you're all over the place with it. I think that she executed it well. I love the character development. I like the fact that we get to see this growth for all of the characters involved in the narrative, and that it is done very well. Another thing that I would say she does well is handling the family dynamic and not making it feel soap opera-ish, right? It feels like a true rift. It feels like, a real everyday family. It's not over the top and overly dramatic. These are real people. You feel like you're getting a peek in on a real family. You're opening up the door and walking into their living room and taking a seat and getting to see some real ish play out. I think she did that very well. My only real drawback to it is that I do feel that although I appreciated the slow burn, I feel like the pacing got a little off for me, because we spent about 29 chapters building up to the romance for the slow burn. And then we get about 10 chapters of the romance. And then by the time you get to chapter 40, it's like, raise your hand if you got punched in the face by life. Exactly. And so the pacing of it feels a little kind of jagged to me. The story is really great, and I don't think it was to the point where it takes you completely out of the story. But I will say that there is so much lead up with the slow burn that everything after that feels to go pretty quickly. So I do highly recommend that you guys read Real. I think that it is amazing work. This is a book that actually was written before the Skyland series. So if you are a fan of the Skyland series and you want to get into another series by her, then I definitely suggest the Hollywood Renaissance series. So with that being said, Thank you so much for being here with me as I went through the reading of Real by Kennedy Ryan. Thank you so much for following along with the recaps, for interacting with me in the comments. If you completely finish the book and you agree or you disagree with my review or anything I've said in the recap, this is the final one, holla at your girl. I want to hear what you have to say in the comments. I will interact and reply to you because I love talking to people who love talking about books. Thank you guys. Have a great one. Love you. See you next time.